and welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We're here to preview the second weekend of tests happening in July. We've got South Africa versus Argentina. That's a new match. South Africa versus Italy. We've got the All Blacks facing the French. We've got the British and Irish Lions hosting the Anzacs 15. There's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of selections and some interesting calls made. I'm here with Shaun. I think Shaun, just in general, it does seem like most of the teams had a clear plan of using this July series to rotate because it seems like most teams have had quite a few changes and we're putting in these players, we're trying these youngsters and all that sort of stuff. Because even from like France and Wales's perspective, even England, there is a bit of changeover from test one to test two.
Yeah, it's good. Normally, we're used to seeing a little bit of a change up the year of a World Cup, because the year before they weren't planned. But perhaps it's the Lions tour. Like
Yeah,
the Lions tour has meant that I have to include Wales in this, but it has meant that Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales are slightly depleted and therefore have to blood youngsters. And I think everyone's kind of gone with that as well. Like, not that you could use it as a decent argument, but listen, we all know that if you go from coach to coach and you don't prepare for the future, you have slumps. And succession planning and looking forward to the future, whether you are head coach or you are on the organizing committee or not, still happens. And you don't really want to get to a space where you have to kind of wipe down the whole board again and start
Scotland.
from the beginning. Like it's the most immature, illogical steps to take. Like I can't understand it because it's something that can easily be managed.
Yeah. I think this will be interesting to see just how and who steps up for all of these teams. I think I think that's the theme this week. There's a lot of like second choice and or like younger players that have a good opportunity to really just plant their flag there and say, look, here I am. And even just starting with the Springboks, quite a lot of wholesale changes to the Bok team in their second match against Italy. And yeah, this is clearly sort of the prove it type of game for a lot of these players. So there's too many changes to go through, but some of the highlights are Thomas du Toit playing at loose head. We have the return of Peter-Steph du Toit. We have Salman Murat, who's taking the captain's armband. We have also the return of Grant Williams. We have Canan Moodie at 13. We have Edo van der Merwe at 14. We have Willie le Roux reaching his 100th test cap. And on the bench, we have debuts or test debuts for Asagati Tlabakanye and Kobus Visa. And, Asagati Tlabakanye, Kobus Visa, and Ethan Hooker. So, Shaun, yeah, I am not even sure where we can start, but like, what's the name that sort of catches your eye there in terms of either a player getting an opportunity or maybe one of the players returning? Who's the player that's like, oh, I'm keen to see how he goes?
Listen, there's a lot. Like as you mentioned, there's changes in like plans. There's changes in a whole bunch of things. The big one for me is Moody at 13. I'm such a stuck record with always talking about 13s or midfielders, but the that's the big one for me. I think Moody is excellent. I think he's a brilliant attacker. I think defensively is where he needs to brush up at 13. So he showed on the wing that he can manage that Springbok defense on the wing. If you can manage it on the wing, you can manage it at 13. Like, but there are other. It's not our defensive setup that he needs to work on. And let's be honest, like this weekend up against Menoncello, he's gonna have to be sorted in that aspect. The thing is, the reason why I'm so keen to see, we all know that we are looking for a 13 for the future. We've potentially got two in the squad right now. We would really like to integrate the next one or two guys as soon as possible. So if Moody can cover, or if Moody can shift there and Hooker can cover, or vice versa, like we'll be in a good space. The other big thing is allowing like Moody being able to manage 13 defensively is huge because you can then start him and you don't have to have a 13 cover on the bench because he can shift in if ever. So you can start him on the wing and then you can always move him in, or you can move him out if need be.
Yeah.
So it's a good space. The other one is Murat, and it's not that I'm interested to see him play. I just want everyone to just calm their farm. Like everyone's shitting the bed. This very much reeks of like square peg round hole kind of stuff. Everyone wants him to play like Urban and play like an abrasive four when that's really not his style. Like he's there for his leadership, he's there for his lineouts, he's there for a whole bunch of other stuff. All I'm going to say is he does not make a lot of errors. Like that's the one thing. So that's one of the reasons why he's there. So we need to kind of figure out how we're going to manage it. I just find the outrage crazy. And the outrage on Murat means that Libbok's not getting the outrage because it would be one of the two. Like, let's be honest, because that's how it works. Um, but yeah, other than that, I'm interested to see. I really would like to see Hooker come on in the midfield as well. Like, maybe it's too early for that. Like, maybe they're gonna move him outside in. Especially, I suppose it's all dependent on what Moody does. And the other one, Esterhuizen. I'm really like looking forward to him having a go. But
At
the
flank or
not
at center?
the what?
At flank or at center?
Yeah, you see. They can move a lot around. I mean, we could end up with a hooker, Moody center pairing to finish the game, just to really mess things up. But Williams, Libbok, and Esterhuizen, I think, is a very nicely balanced combination because Esterhuizen really can just run inside and just run those hard lines, set up platforms, and open up for Mani.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting. And Villiani's 100, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, congratulations to him. He joins, I think it's nine other Springboks centurions,
No,
maybe.
seven. He's the eighth.
Oh, sorry, maybe I'm skipping ahead to one. But yeah, he's the eighth Springboks centurion, and I mean, maybe let's just pause there. Like, I think I'll make the same point about James O'Connor when we talk about the Australian squad, but Villaroos careers had so many chapters and like different phases. It's like a teenager that's like sort of going through a lot of like different like fads and all that sort of stuff. Like he had an emo phase, he had the long hair phase, he had the dating around phase, he had the nerdy phase. Like it's just so crazy just thinking about the guy that was like a number 14 and was like the starlet for the Cheetahs. Then he was, our primary fullback, and then he sort of went down in estimation as the guy that was just shouting at everyone when he made a mistake. And then he went away to Wasp and he was brilliant and he came back and he sort of reestablished himself as number one. He had the dip in the 2019 World Cup. He was like sort of like our finisher in the 2023 World Cup. Like he's just done it all, I think, for the Springboks. And yeah, like it's a good story of like the last 12 years of the Springboks is just following Villaroo's career. And you can see the ups and downs that the Springboks have had.
Yeah, so good. I actually went on a little look-see of his career, and I posted it on social. So I'll read out some of the stuff. So his first 12 tests he played, he was actually at the Griquas. So he made his debut
Mm.
at the Griquas, which we don't get to see often anymore because generally guys are contracted to franchises, stuff like that. He had 28 consecutive starts. Well, I don't know if they weren't all, I don't think they were consecutive games, but in his 28 games from 2018 to 2022, he had 28 starts. So he didn't bench and he started every one of them. If we win on Saturday, which I'm pretty sure we will, he of all the Centurions, he will have the lowest loss percentage out of everyone.
Mm.
Like everyone's there, so he will be just on about 30%, where the next best I think is 31.8, and goes up to about 33%. And then of all, so he'll be the eighth Centurion. Only four Centurions. If we win on Saturday, he will be one of only of four Centurions that have won on their 100th game. So Habana lost to Australia on his 100th. A week later, or the game later, we played New Zealand. John de Villiers, he lost. I know
Percy lost.
Percy lost to New Zealand.
Smith lost to New Zealand.
There were three New Zealand losses, one Australia loss. Um, And yeah, quite interesting. But yeah, great. Like the perception around Willie le Roux is not the reality. Like it's very much one of those things. Like if you actually had a look at his career and you had a look at the numbers, if you take the face away from it and you show someone this player's numbers, they will be like, flip, he's good. And then you're like, it's Willie le Roux. Like, no, 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 he's cuck. Like that's how it goes. So yeah, flip. I'm so happy that he got to make his 100 because everyone's wanting him gone before it. You know,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. Everyone's
He's
like, yeah, he must come on, and then you drop him from the squad. You put him out to pasture. I'm like, this guy's gonna be here for the rest of the year at least. You don't make
yeah.
your hundredth and then get discarded. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was still playing so well for the Bulls. Like that's the crazy thing. Like he's still such a key cog in helping a team just with their attack and their kicking and everything. Like it's not really going away. I mean, yes, you can definitely say that Fassi and Willems are probably ahead of him, but yeah, obviously there's still a role for him. So yeah, I'll be keen to see how he goes. I mean, I think the nice thing, Sean, you were saying about this 100th test curse is that it seems like it's like from the previous generation of box. So it does seem like with the likes of Itzebeth that have just had 100 test caps, they've seem to have gotten wins. So yeah, that's hopefully a positive because yeah, we don't need to ruin this occasion. Yeah, just on the Moody thing, I hear what your point is. I actually think I don't actually worry as much about his defense because like even for the Bulls, he does shoot up. He does do the things that are expected of a 13 in the box system now. Like make the read and sort of stop the attack at source instead of sort of waiting and waiting and waiting and sort of biding your time and then sort of choosing the right option. So it seems like he has a really good eye for that. I think it's more attack that would be a bit of a concern for me. It's just that ability to link up and to, get the wings into the game and to like, I mean, like how Creel's been doing the last few years now, like just finding ways to release the wings. That I think would be more my concern than that. But yeah, I mean, it's not a crisis, but I think there is a bit of a question as to the 13s following. I mean, yeah, Creel's obviously been fantastic. Lucanio hasn't really reached the heights in a few years now, and he's, I think, still battling with injuries. So yeah, between Moody and Hooker, I think there is an opportunity there. And I wouldn't be too surprised if actually it's Moody starting at 13 this week and then Hooker starts next week at 13. So we'll have to see how that goes. Um, to bring it to the forwards, and yeah, maybe just the other two debutants. Very keen to see Cobus Visa play. Also having a chance to play with his brother, that'll be awesome. And I think, especially that last 3, 4 months of the URC season, his form just went through the roof. So I think he'll be really good just coming on. Um, him and Nokia, obviously they play well together at the Bulls, so I think that will be a really strong locking pairing. And then Tlabakanye obviously had his chance in the Barbarians game. I think it'll be an easier in some ways game in this one scrum wise because the Italian props that are coming off the bench are much less experienced than the Kian Healy's that he was facing in the Barbarians game. Yeah, I'll be keen to see how he sort of adds his impact. Because I mean, the one negative from last week was the bench didn't really add the impact that we wanted it to. So there'll definitely be a focus on the guys from 16 to 23, just making sure that they can keep up the intensity that, kind of went away in last week's game. And then yeah, the World Rugby Player of the Year is back as well. So Peter Steph Toy, I don't think he's played that much, right, Sean? Like he's pretty much been injured since November. So this is the first match of the reigning Player of the Year.
Yeah, well, definitely first test match. He struggled a bit with injury in Japan, and yeah, I don't expect him to have a massive run. Uh, I say that now, but we've also seen the Springbok coaches bring a guy back from injury and then push him as long as possible. It's not a case of giving him 20 minutes, 30 minutes and pulling him, but I think it's all relative. I really feel that the focus will be about getting that fast start like we did, but then keeping the pressure and then basically just breaking their spirits so much that when the bomb squad does come on, they can't even think about possibly overcoming it, you know?
Yeah. Also, yeah, quick note. Maybe didn't even see it myself. I mean, Jan Hendrik Wessels is the reserve hooker, so that's going to be interesting. Like, yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I think he's definitely more of a prop than a hooker. Um, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see because I don't, or if everything goes well, I don't think Marks is playing more than 50 minutes. So then that'll be like 20, 30 minutes for him against still a strong Italian team. So that'll be interesting to see. Sean, on the Italian side, they've made it's five changes that have been made to the starting 15. Um, Mostly at the back line. You have someone like Mirko Belloni. I don't really know too much about him. That's at fullback, and there's still some dangerous names and main names that would be in the starting team. But look, I think Italy will be looking at the Springbok team and being like, look, there's a chance here. We definitely have an opportunity here to get a win. And similar to the what's the 2022 match that Wales had in Bloemfontein when they played like our second team, there is a chance, but I think it will have to come from the starting team because the bench doesn't really have that much experience at all. Like I would say pretty much the only ones that really have experience are Spaniolo, Isco's played a few tests, Varney's obviously got a lot of experience. So I think it'll have to be like quite a fast start for Italy to try and sort of put the pressure on the box to try and sort of match them because the starting team isn't bad. I mean, yes, we've talked about like the players that aren't here, but it's still a pretty strong team. Like there's still, regulars for especially for Zebre and there's still some like bits of class and like really, really good players. But I wouldn't back them to come back from 10 points behind. But if they may be 5, 10 points ahead, like can they hold on against maybe a slightly less experienced Springbok team? That's a possibility.
Yeah, it's the for me, I look at this like if Italy are going to get a step up, it's going to be along the lines of like an aggregation of marginal gains. Like they're going to have to really look at the Springbok side and be like, cool. They're kind of like thrown together, so there will be uncertainty. No one's really connecting. So let's win those little battles. Like let's get up in their face, make them make a mistake. Once that mistake, okay, cool. Now let's have a decent scrum and then let's try and create a line break. Like let's attack some weaknesses.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to do. And what that will do is just slowly build up their confidence and it will allow them to be on top for longer. That would be the big thing for me. I don't see the Springboks losing this, but I do see the Springboks coming away from this with more questions. And that's what Italy are going to want to kind of capitalize on and really prey on that uncertainty with certain players, with certain combinations, and then just build, 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 build.
Hmm. Yeah, I see Bologna actually he's been playing for the Italian under 20s last year. So he's like just turned 21. So he's really young at fullback. So I mean it's a good opportunity for those sorts of players that are maybe second string, you know, mostly mostly from Zebre usually, but like those players that can actually put a stake in the claim. And yeah, I mean you mentioned it earlier, the Menoncello versus Moody matchup could be quite key. Um, but that doesn't happen much if the forwards don't do their work. So it'll be interesting in the front row because I mean we know how good Vocalo is at tight head and how he's been great in the URC. Tom Tutoy has been great at tight head. He's done a bit of loose head as well, for the box especially. So that sort of combination with Malcolm Marx, it's still a pretty experienced combination for the Italians. You know, they have Fischetti, they have Ferrari and the props, they have Bartolomeo, at hooker who's a little bit less experienced. So if Italy can, yeah, like you said, Sean, if Italy can at least get parity there, can, you know, get their lineup ball, can have the likes of Giuliano Negri and Vincent doing mad things around in the rucks. Just that sort of making that 50-50, and then you just give the platform for a Menoncello, for a Liner, for Trula to really do their magic, then it can be, an opportunity for them. So very interested to see how they go. And I think for Thomas du Toit, they I think we've talked about this before about the props. Like there is a bit of like, we don't have the depth that we did maybe 2 years ago. And someone like Thomas du Toit being like a great tight head and a very, very, very good loose head would would help him a lot if he's able to say, look, I can at least cover at loose head. I can sort of do what Trevor Yagani has been doing for the last few years.
Yeah, listen, every year we're like, this is Thomas Toy's year. We've been saying it since 2019. Like, you kind of look at it and you're like, this is going to happen. And then some young bull comes up and takes his place. And then Thomas Tutoy rips it up for Bath and then gets another look in. So, yeah, no matter whether he is like guaranteed sort of first or second choice, guaranteed a squad space, like even if he's just outside that squad place space for the Springboks, he is always going to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
I think Rusty's going to be constantly chatting with him because you know that, let's say today someone drops and tomorrow we are naming the squad for a World Cup final that is 48 hours away. You phone Thomas Tutoy, he comes into the mix, you have no problems.
Yeah.
Like it's so I'm not like trying to say, listen, he we can leave him out. I'm just saying that he's good enough that he can play in any one of our squads and no one will complain. You'll never complain when you see Thomas Tutoy's name there. You'll never be like, oh, he's terrible. So
Yeah. And it's just that, I guess, that breakthrough game where you sort of without a doubt know he's up there with the best in the world. He's doing what he's been doing for Bath for a few years, even for the Sharks before that. That's probably been missing a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's also fair to say, like, he's, I mean, if your third choice prop is as good as Tom Satoy, you're in a really good spot as well. So it's a good opportunity for him. So yeah, I think there's a lot of players that can really, raise their claims there. There's still enough experience with the likes of Peter Steff, Jasper Visa, even Oxenche coming off the bench that will hopefully be able to hold people's hands if like things can if things do get a bit dodgy near the end. So, Sean, yeah, I think you are right. It could be, I think it's going to be a tighter game than most people think. Yeah, hopefully for the box sake, it's not a loss, especially for Vili's sake. But yeah, I think Italy should try and hopefully, if they can strike first, then it at least makes this test a lot interesting near the end. Okay, Sean, I think let's move to the British and Irish Lions game. They face the Anzac 15. So this, I think from maybe let's start with the Anzacs quickly. I mean, it's a pretty good group of players. Um, I'm trying to temper my expectations now with these combined teams now because yeah, it's become more and more impossible to now think, okay, this team's gonna, hit it out the roof. But in terms of names, they have Brandon Paenga-Amosa at hooker. They have Lucas Salakai Loto at lock. They have Frizzell Samuel and Sotutu at loose trio, which is a ridiculous loose trio. Tane Edmund at fly half. They have David Havili and Ganila Mapet at the midfield. They have Korobete and AJ Lamb at wings and Sean Stevens at fullback. Like it's a really like a team of all-stars. And the Lions, I want to hear from you, Sean. How many of these Lions, at least the starting team, do you think are still in the picture for the Test 23? Or do you think this is mostly you have to sort of hit the lights out if you want to be a part of it? And basically Wednesday's 23 is the team that's going to probably face the Australians in the first test.
so that loose trio for the Lions is playing for a jumper at least.
Yeah.
Beirne is playing for a starting lineup. I know Beirne has been blowing a little hot and cold this tour, and Chesham hasn't played a lot, but when he's played decent. I still think Beirne starts. So I think Beirne is the one. The other is Keenan. Keenan is They need Keenan to find form now, because Kinghorn under a bit of an injury cloud. They've got a little bit of a 15 crisis. So those are the two players. If Keenan doesn't have a good game, Kinghorn starts and they start working with Smith to cover off the bench or something. I think that's how it works. Um, the midfield is interesting. I don't think any combination of the midfields have done enough to tell Farrell, listen, we're gonna start. I'm talking about like change-ups. So I feel that he will go with the better defender at 13 and his partner. So it'll be Aki and Ringrose. I, I Ringrose is a way better defender, but a better momentum stopping defender than Jones. Jones is a decent defender. He's not bad. He's just not a momentum stopper. But conversely, Jones is in where Ringrose is good as well. And I think your default would be to make sure And I don't think Ringrose and Tuipulotu have done enough together. I think Tuipulotu's been a little bit off Ringrose for me. Um, yeah, it's only those two players that I really feel like Byrne and Keenan that are going to be the ones that are really fighting for that spot. That loose trio is quite interesting because Pollock has almost done enough to warrant a spot in the 23. Um,
Yeah, I
and
think so too.
Earl also kind of, and he covers 6 and 8. And Morgan covers 6 and 7. So it's such an interesting one. I think Tom Curry might have fallen out of this conversation, which is interesting because he was shooting the lights out for a long period of time. It was almost like he's guaranteed to be in the 23, where now you're kind of looking at like Van der Fleer, Byrne. I don't think they should go with the short, loose trio. I think they need another jumper, even though they don't seem to be using all their jumpers as much at line-out time. I think they need a bit more bulk there. I think 8 Conan is sorted, so they just need that bench. And if they go with a short, loose trio bench and a 6-2, you could understand. Like I'm for that. I think it'll probably suit them better. If they go 5-3. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they manage it.
Yeah, I think Sean, I think that I agree with how you've summed it up. Like, it's tough to see. Yeah, I think apart from the positions you've named, it's tough to see anyone else really coming in unless they really are absolutely amazing on Saturday. Um, with the loose forward thing, yeah, you can almost say it depends on the plans, but pretty much all the loose forwards that are featured, so that's Pollock, Morgan, and Van der Fleer, are fighting for 1 to 3 spots on the bench, just depending on what Farrell does. So if he wants to extend to a 6-2, whatever the case is. And yeah, I think you are right, Sean. I think Pollock is at least going to be one of those spots. And it's just dependent on, does Farrell risk not playing a lock on the bench because come because sorry, because Chisholm is at 6 and then Chisholm moves to lock, and then you have like Pollock and Van der Fleer coming on like they did on Wednesday. Or is it a possibility that you go 6-2 or even 7-1, and then you sort of go, okay, Pollock and Earl, for intents and purposes, are covering, the outside backs, which I don't think he'll do for the first test. I think he'll probably, if I think 6-2 is a possibility, but I think it's less a possibility because now of this injury cloud over Hugo, over Blake Kinghorn. So it'll be interesting to see because yeah, I also wasn't impressed with Wednesday and his performance on the tour in general, but him not being in this team suggests that he's at least in the 23 for next week Saturday. So, and I mean, obviously he's a great player, and Curry's one of those players now. After what 6, 7, 8 years, or 6 years that he's been in the test thing, this match, when he plays the Box or the All Blacks or plays for the Lions, he reserves his best matches for that. So I don't have too much of a worry, but it's tough though on the likes of Morgan and Van der Fleer, also class open siders. One of them, probably two of them, won't even be in the team. So it's just a crazy thing. So yeah, I think it's basically it's either Pollock and Van der Fleer or Pollock and Morgan. Uh, those two become on the bench, and it's also going to be depend on Byrne and just him showing enough that, look, maybe I'm not, because people have been talking about how tight he is and he's had a lot of minutes. But yeah, the problem is you sort of have that monkey pause, like, of you've wished for less minutes, but now you're going to get rested during the test series for the British Irish Lions. So I think he's probably for a 20-minute cameo, but he has to now sort of play his way in and just show that, look, he can't not be in the Lions. Otherwise, he's going to be the midweek captain, basically.
Yeah. The other two positions I really want to talk about. This is a straight shootout. I personally feel it's a straight shootout for the bench hooker between Luke Cowan-Dickie and Ron Kelleher. Like, I haven't been impressed with either one of them. I have my issues with LCD just purely on his defensive setup. and how he tackles. I mean, it's no secret, like everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
His darts are not the best. Neither is Kelleher's. Like there are issues there. Kelleher's a little bit more of an open hooker. So if they want to tighten things up when they take Sheehan off, then you bring Khan Dickie on because defensively he gets around, he hits good rucks, he makes good carries. They're really good tight forward hooker as opposed to Kelleher, which is slightly more like an open play hooker. So this could be a straight shootout. I don't think that bench hooker for the Test series is nailed down yet. Sheehan's starting. It's who comes off the bench that is
Yeah.
key. And then the other conversation is around Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell, I personally feel that Owen Farrell is in with a massive shout of making the 23. And that all depends on whether they go 6-2 or 5-3 for the first test. If Farrell shows just composure, which he's always shown, like, and he's match fit and he gets around the park and he manages the game well, like he test matches this game, kicks to the corners, just like he's a good game driver. He's going to be in with a shout because Finn Smith may not be the guy to come off the bench, or Finn Smith may not be the guy to play 60 minutes or 70 minutes if something happens to Finn Russell. And Owen Farrell's in with a shot. He's really there to similar as cover for as cover, like in case someone drops down midweek, then Farrell I think goes in because Farrell's experienced enough and been in the game long enough that he can calm things down. Like he's not gonna want to play like Marcus Smith, like run for every gap. Like Farrell has the ability to just direct the game. Play your 12, play your guys coming around the corner, just really sit in the pocket and direct procedures. So there's an interesting person to watch when he comes on.
Yeah, I think what Farrell's role could be, if he does come in, is if, yeah, like you said, if number one, there's no Kinghorn and Marcus Smith is starting, then you are less inclined to want Smith to now move from fullback to fly half in that case. Like, let's say Keenan isn't selected because maybe still short on match fitness. So you don't want sort of that double disruption on your sort of your first choice backline. So then Farrell is obviously a good choice because he can also play 12. So either he plays a 10 if Russell's subbed off early, or he can come in at 12 and still help Finn Russell there. So there is an opportunity. It's just also like similar to the Keenan chat is Farrell, if things go well, Farrell might have 20, 30 minutes to try and prove that fitness before the first test. So he'll have to also pretty much hit the ground running. And yeah, the Lions don't really have much time for that. So he'll have to see. Speaking of, I guess this kind of brings us to the Kinghorn injury update. So it seems like the scan has confirmed it's not a serious injury, but they have brought in Jamie Osborne. He'll join the squad. Actually, I think he's now not going to play he's not going to play the test match against Portugal. And he's going to join the squad, the British Irish Lions squad, as training cover. It was interesting wording. We were talking about this before, Sean, that it's interesting that they're not saying he's a full replacement, which probably suggests something about that Kinghorn's maybe fit, but not, he won't play tomorrow, obviously, and he maybe is a question for next week. But that Farrell doesn't want to necessarily go, okay, we'll wait, and then it's Friday or it's Wednesday, and then they decide, okay, Kinghorn's actually not fit for the test series. Now you're scrambling to get someone onto a plane. So it kind of seems like it's like an insurance policy having Osborne there.
Yeah, the wording's excellent because it's clear Kinghorn's still in the mix, but we need someone else here. Also, bearing in mind, if Kinghorn's in rehab, like you do need someone else running at 15.
Yeah.
Perhaps Marcus Smith's running at 10 during those shadow drills, and you need someone at 15. I think it's great. I think it's an amazing experience for him. An awesome new environment, new vibes. Yeah, I think it's a great call all round. What it potentially does is also highlight that bringing Owen Farrell in could potentially have been, and not an error, could potentially have caused a bit of a hassle at 15.
Yeah.
Um, And that's only because um, Elliot Daly was playing so well at 15. Like, let's be honest, if Elliot Daly wasn't playing well at 15 and Kinghorn and what's his name? I can't even
Keenan.
Keenan, sorry, were just the only 15s, which and Marcus Smith, no one would really care much for it if Daly dropped out and Farrell came in because they were never seeing Daly as an actual test 15 or an option at 15, which he literally played himself into. So yeah, it's great all round, and I think what it does is it bolsters their squad um, up nicely, and it takes a lot of the hassle away should there be a problem moving forward.
Yeah, I think it probably also says that um, Kinghorn is, I think, maybe at 50-50 for the first test.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a bit more probable for later, but I don't think he's out of the woods yet. It's one of those where I think if because yeah, there's a bit of an argument, at least on Blue Sky, as to like, why is it Osborne? Why is it not maybe one of the Scots being brought in or the Welsh because they're closer being brought in to be that sort of training cover? And I think it's more because Osborne, I think, is more the replacement, but sort of cover for now to give Kinghorn as much time as possible to prove himself fit for the test series. Because Kinghorn's good enough that if he's fit just for the last two tests, you keep him there until those last two tests. But if it becomes that, okay, he's not really going to be fit for test two, maybe you then go, okay, Kinghorn, all the best, go back to the south of France. And then Osborne can sort of come in and be maybe an option, or at the very least, he covers that place for the Pacific Islands game in the middle of test one and test two, and then maybe is in the conversation for the third test. So that makes sense to me. I don't think there's a problem with that because it obviously would make a lot more sense if it was Kinghorn just having a concussion and he's like stood down for 10 days, then I think it makes more sense to get in, a Blair Murray or a Henry Patterson or a Tom Jordan just to run at 15 and then sort of be like, thanks, you can go back home now. But I think in this case, it's actually more of a Kinghorn is probably not fully fit. And I mean, he also just came back from injury. So I don't think that is out of that's out of the realms of possibility. And yeah, I mean, this is what we were talking about last week, and I think that was my main concern with the Daily not being replaced by someone who can play 15. It's that Kinghorn and Keenan are just either not really maybe fully fit, but I mean, the thing with Kinghorn happened sort of as an accident during the game, and Keenan's form is not where maybe it could be. So then it's like, just you're cutting it fine. So I think best case scenario for Farrell is that Keenan hits the lights out on Saturday because I think it disrupts the team a whole lot less if Keenan is playing 15, probably going to be playing with James Lowe at 11 and probably Freeman at 14. And then Marcus Smith is that sort of player 23, can come in at 10, but probably will be like the 15 at this second half of the game. Because I think Smith has been really good at like as the sort of bench option for the Lions so far. Like he really has added to the attack. There is questions about his defense, there is questions about his positioning, but he does add an extra element. It's just that maybe the bad outweighs the good if he plays for 80 minutes versus if he plays for 20, 30 minutes, the good still outweighs the bad.
I think Marcus Smith feels and it kind of looks like he's a little bit disrespected by the coaches. He's always like in the mix and then he's got to prove himself. And then everyone's like, no, 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 he's got it, then he plays. Then he joins another squad and then the coach is like, okay, I've got you here because you're good, but I've got other guys that are better. I don't think Marcus Smith is that bad on defense. Positionally is possibly the only issue. One-on-one
Yeah.
tackles, the man he's committed. Like, I don't want to cause shit here, but if you had a big guy running straight at you, would you rather want Sam Prendergast or would you want Marcus Smith there? You'd want Marcus Smith there because you know that he's going to really get in. He's not going to like get on his back heels. He's going to try and get a shoulder in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
he really he commits to it. Marcus Smith, like Keenan is playing for a starting 15. I don't think they go Kinghorn and Keenan for the tests. There's no bench spot for one of those other 15s. That other bench spot is going to be Marcus Smith, and that's because he's going to prove it again and again and again that he's got the ability to do it. There's a very good chance that we're going to finish the game with Owen Farrell at 10 and Marcus Smith at 15, and the two of them are going to gel, and it's going to cause a whole week of issues in the media and the fans because be like, well, this is working and it's a viable option, so you might as well do it. But
Yeah.
Marcus Smith is better than a majority of the people make him out, I feel personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's just that unfortunate thing that his career's fallen obviously square in the middle of the last sort of parts of Farrell and Ford. So just as he won that battle, then Finn Smith just comes in and he's pretty much almost like the prototype of Farrell and Ford, and he's sort of pushed him out to the side there. Like, yeah, I mean, you could kind of say similar things have happened to someone like Danny Cipriani, where, you know, last sort of bits of like a Wilkinson and maybe even a Hodgson. And then when his time was supposed to arrive, then Owen Farrell comes in as like 1920 saying, hey, this is going to be mine for the rest of the time. So I think it's just been unfortunate. And it's so weird because this time last year, we'll probably talk about Smith being one of the best flyers in the world. And he's kind of now been sort of pushed out of that position, both for the Lions and for England. And now he's trying to find his home at fullback. And, you know, he's doing a decent job there. But yeah, there is some holes there. So yeah, I think it's been interesting to follow that. Shaun, maybe just to bring in the Wallabies while we're talking about the Lions. I mean, they've announced their squad for the British and Irish Lions Test Series. Um, the big change is that Noah Lolesio has been ruled out of the series, and now James O'Connor's come in. And you know, I think it's definitely the right call because he is that experienced hand, and he can play a similar role to what he did with the Crusaders. Like Cooks has been saying that he's like that insurance policy if you need him in the last 10, 20 minutes, or even if an early injury happens to either Liner or Donaldson, he can play the whole game and you won't lose too much. But yeah, like you can just see like that there is that difference in quality for the Wallabies that they can't really lose too many of those starting 23 players. Otherwise, you are now having to make SMS or like SOS calls, I should say, to some of the older players. Like, you're not too far from asking David Pocock to stripping down his politician suit and then coming into the team there. So, but yeah, I think
The
JOC
man
is
is
definitely
fit
the right
enough,
call.
eh? There's no
No,
doubt about it. Like Pocock is probably fitter.
I mean, I think he was playing like a club game around Canberra, and that man still looks like he can do a job there for the Wallabies. So he won't be a bad call at all.
Yeah, the Wallabies, I believe, have a the right they have the right mentality and they have a very good starting 15 that can be competitive. Once once we get past that, it's all about what the vibe is on the field. Like, are the Wallabies up? Do they feel like they can cause an upset and you bring the bench in slowly or as one, however they manage it, I don't mind. They have the ability to do that too. They have the ability to play bigger than the sum of their parts. And That's what's interesting. The key thing, I am not entirely sure that playing just one game before the first Lions test was the answer. If they could have got just one more game in, it would probably make all the fans and everyone feel better because then you can see what's happening. But like, let's be honest, Joe Schmidt, if he wanted another game, he could have got one. I don't feel it's a Lions tour. It's not like you can not make arrangements for it. They are good enough in their starting 15. It's all about the match fitness. It's all about the intensity. Can they manage it? The Lions have shown that they can dominate, but not finish off in the first 30 minutes. So
Yeah,
if you keep it on top of them and then you stay in the fight for the final 30 minutes, where the Lions have more often than not, barring the Brumbies, have gone and destroyed teams, and you create that doubt, then I think is where you can do it. I still feel the Wallabies have an opportunity to go into the third test 1-1. I really do feel it, but it's kind of more on hope and what the Wallabies can bring and what they're like as a nation. Like they've really got a lot of dog in them. But I need to see that first test. And yeah, I'm not going to see enough of the Wallabies beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, of course, big changes that would be different from the team that played against Fiji is having Rob Valentini and Will Skelton in the 23. They will obviously, I think, lift up the Wallabies. Um, yeah, I think it's a big challenge for Australia, and it's going to be interesting what they do at nine and I'm sorry, at 10, and maybe it impacts what they do at nine. Because if Tom Liner does start, for example, and even if Donaldson is the one at 10, because he plays with Nic White at the force, does Nic White maybe become that starting option just to give some experience? And Jake Gordon wasn't able to play against Fiji. He's sort of coming back from injury, so maybe you kind of go a bit different. You start with Nic White, at least in the first test, and see how that goes. Versus McDermott, I think he's set to be the impact player. I think he's a great impact player actually, um, from the bench for the Wallabies, and then that can then maybe you do have that sort of the second playmaker and play and someone that can sort of help direct things from nine like Nic White can do. But yeah, I think the nice thing for the Wallabies is that they pretty much had 4 tests in the November tour where they played pretty much most of these players together in a 23. Like you had the Ikital Swali'i combination. You've tried a few things with like the likes of Jorgensen and Peach at 11. The Valentini, McWright, Wilson, loose trio knows each other quite well. Yeah, I mean, lock is different because they had Salakai Loto this time last year at the other lock, but now it'll probably be Skelton and Frost, and they have to try and figure things out. Whoopsie. They have to try and figure things out there as well. So, yeah, I think at least, I mean, it's not 100 test caps, sort of, or 100, or like lots of tests that they play together, like maybe the Box would, but there is at least some games they can sort of go back to. But yeah, Sean, it's going to be about the Lions going to be obviously fighting fit. They've obviously been playing games now for the last few weeks. Now the Wallabies, they have to be able to match that when the games start. And yeah, I mean, it's good news that a lot of the players that were injured for the Fiji game are back. So it's basically just Lolesio that they've lost.
Yeah, that nine conversation is very interesting because Jake Gordon was he captained them for a while, but he was the starting nine. Then take McDermott's come in. Nic White's always been there and thereabouts. I take Tate McDermott has been the starting nine recently. Like it's between him and Jake Gordon how it's been managed. But Nic White's always there. I wouldn't be surprised if
Yeah.
White is on the bench and McDermott starts. But the conversation Schmidt's been having around Gordon, you kind of feel like he's in the mix as well. I
Yeah.
was never a massive fan of McDermott. I didn't rate him, but I've definitely seen the value he brings. The nine conversation is going to be one of the hardest because, and it will fit down exactly how you've put it. It will go down to a combo because that's almost the list of things you will go down while you kind of trying to eliminate someone. Everyone's going to be fine, and then you'll be like, cool, Nic White's going to play with so and so, and this is our game plan, versus Tate McDermott playing with so and so, and this is our game plan. It's Nic White or McDermott or Gordon. So that starting nine, I feel will be McDermott. I think that bench nine is going to be the hardest.
Yeah. Also, this means that Slipper and O'Connor would be the two Wallabies that have played both in 2013 and in 2025 in the both Test series. So Slipper, I mean, he's has the most caps for Australia ever. Like he's as old as dirt essentially. And I think with JOC, like it's crazy that he was literally the starting 10 12 years ago, and he's coming back to that. Like, yeah, just like Willie, like a career of many sort of different phases. Like I thought when we already gone through O'Connor being that experienced old head coming into the Wallabies and sort of helping the youngsters. I thought we did that like a few years ago, and we've sort of circled back to that role for him now.
Yeah, this role isn't about coming in and helping the youngsters. This role is redemption. Like it's
Yeah,
gone full circle, and then I'm able to get a little bit extra out of my career for me. I'm gone to the Crusaders. I'm playing well. I've won a Super Rugby. I'm performing well enough to be in the conversation and well enough to get a phone call. So I'm just going to go back and enjoy my time in the Wallabies because, to be fair, we're not going to see him in the Wallaby squad again. This is it. So he's going to just give it his all
yeah,
and then just put that final stamp on his career.
yeah. Let's go to the match in Wellington. The All Blacks playing France. All Blacks winning the first game, one um, by 4 points, and there's a few changes, but there's a change that will hopefully save us from a Shaun rant. Is that there's been a late change with Caleb Clark falling out of the team, and now that means Moni Narawa is now at 14. Rico Ioane's been moved back to the left wing, and the other interim force changes from last week is Patrick Tuipulotu coming on for Scott Barrett, who's injured for the rest of the series. And on the bench, we now have Timoki Tavatavanawi to the bench there as well. And essentially means Samapeni Finau is, him and Tupo Vai are kind of covering the lock position. So it's sort of going to another level of depth. Whereas with France, they've made about 100 changes. So pretty different team from the team that played in the first test. Clearly, this is about Gaultier just seeing, what he has in all these players. But, the likes of Colombe, Brennan, Halagahu, Borchaton, Abadi, Barassi, Deporte, Leo Barev all come into the team. So it's a very different team from the team that played last week. So let's start with the All Blacks. Obviously, Scott Barrett is a massive loss. I think that is something that they'll have to manage. And it's nice that they have Tuipulotu to come in because obviously he's being paired with Fabian Holland, who just started for the All Blacks. I mean, he essentially started playing rugby like 6 years ago in New Zealand. So like this is it's the best experienced hand to just try to help him through this. So they still do. I mean, they're preferring this having a locket flank thing, which is fine, and they can still sort of keep that and have the three locks on the field during the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like a pressure cooker when I saw Rico Ioane at 14. I was like getting ready to have a proper cook's rant. But unfortunately with Clark, well, unfortunate for Clark, but he's lost out and I've moved Rico back to 11. I don't think he should play 14. I haven't seen him play 14. He's not a 14, he's an 11. Yeah. But anyway, Narawa coming in is the big point. In the very beginning. He's an out and out right winger. He's in form. If you had to combine the Rico Ioane and Caleb Clark tries for this whole season, Narawa still beats them. Like, you know what I mean? So there's that. Yeah, listen, Scott Barrett, he is a big loss. Patrick Tuipulotu, he was injured, and that's why he missed out on the 23 last week, if I'm not mistaken. So that's
Yeah.
huge. But there's that conversation as well. So they're having a bit of a problem. And Cook spoke about it last week and saying, listen, the All Blacks have a lock problem, and it's getting
Mm.
pretty. That closet's getting a little bit bare. So they can't afford to have any more issues in 4 and 5 in the whole squad. Like no one can drop, no one can get sick, no Susie, no nothing. But yeah, it's going to be good. I'm glad to see Will Jordan at 15. I want to see what he has to do there. And what that does do is allow Mackenzie to come in a little later. And whether they need to drop him in at 10 or 15, they've still got the ability to do it. But these injuries and these problems and these decisions, positional decisions for the All Blacks will not be highlighted as much this week because of the French team that's coming. There are, I forget the exact number, it's like 52-ish caps in that starting 15 altogether. It's a really, really, really green team. And I I'm not sure if they're going to have a hangover from the emotions of pre-game, game, and post-game. Like, are they going to have a hangover from that and roll over and take 60? Or are they going to be able to put up a fight? I think it's going to be the former. I think there will be some challenge, but there won't be a challenge like we saw in the first test.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I said last week I thought it would at least be 1-1 by the third test. I think the second test was always going to be the one that they get absolutely pasted in. But the big positive, though, is that they're playing in Wellington, and New Zealand has had a horrible record in Wellington the last few years. So maybe this could be the one that France does get out. And actually, I mean, man for man, this is probably a stronger team because it has those five players from the top 14 that have come back in. It has even a lot of the Toulon players that didn't really play in the first test, like Abadi and Halaga, who like it could, I think it's going to be interesting. Like there's definitely also a possibility that this team sort of stays at the same intensity as the All Blacks because it's different players for the All Blacks to now sort of study up on. It's it's arguably better players in these positions. So you do have, that opportunity there for that to sort of keep strong because like Barassi is probably the best replacement for Fiku. Like it sort of is the same player. Deporte and Gaiton are pretty much the same player as well. Um, Brennan has obviously been a great young lock. I think he's a really nice operator there. Like just that person that can sort of help to run the line out. Pochettino can just chop people down for days. Van Tonda, like I haven't actually seen him play too much since he moved to France, but I mean
Tackle
he's
machine.
yeah, very much so. And that's pretty much been the French formula in their flanks is just get people that will make 25 tackles a game. Don't mind that. We'll hit 20 racks a game as well. We'll carry the ball as hard as possible. So there's still enough there that will, I think, keep the All Blacks, keep the All Blacks' hands full. So I think it's probably, yeah, I think it's more likely it's a big second half for the All Blacks than it is like from minute one, it's 13-0, whatever the case is. Um, yeah,
The France again have gone with super heavy pack and forwards on the bench.
yeah.
They've gone with a copy paste game plan, especially with the bench. Like they're really gonna just overcome the All Blacks with just brute force.
Which, yeah, I mean, kind of didn't really work last time. It did feel like they needed something extra to just break the All Blacks defense in those last 20 minutes to get the win. So I'm wondering if it's enough to just have, like you said, to just only bring on the heavies, if that will sort of limit what they can do. So, yeah, Tafi Fanua is there, Walkie's there. They have six forwards on the bench. So I think Dalbanya, the scrummer from Pau, he's making his debut as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that is the right call. Like maybe going 5-3 and playing Fiku as that bench option just to give a sort of extra oomph might have been a better call. Maybe playing Slimani off the bench, but then I think they're trying to sort of rotate and see what they have with these different players. So yeah, I think it's crazy that in some ways, yes, there's still definitely a French second team, but it's not too far off the team that played last week, which was also a second team. Like they have, maybe only to the second to the box, like the strongest depth in world rugby right now. So I think New Zealand learned that last week. They'll be better. I think they won't let so many try opportunities go bigging or be held up or whatever the case is. But I also I wouldn't be too surprised if France actually does keep this interesting and this is something that only sort of starts opening up in the last 20 minutes. The big, I think, advantage, or the big advantage for France is, you know, New Zealand have just lost quite a few of their strong first choice players where, you don't have Tamaiti Williams coming off the bench. You don't have Scott Barrett. You don't have Wallace Atiti in the loose forwards. There is still, I mean, there isn't like an Anton Leonard Brown at 13. Billy Proctor's great, but he's not, as experienced as ALB. Like the wings are a little bit inexperienced. But I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Narawa played in that. Did he not play that opening game in the World Cup actually against the French? Like he has at least some experience. So there's just enough, and the bench is still a bit green. So, and I think arguably a bit more green than last week because now it's just David. I think David McKenzie's basically holding the caps for everyone. So there's just enough for the French to be like, look, we can push them as far as possible, and then yeah, hopefully now it goes on our side, then on this side. So this game, I think, will be still very interesting because yeah, I think there's enough quality for the French to give them a fighting chance, and we think New Zealand should be better, but there's enough there that they've lost a few things that have disrupted them that could make this sort of an equal test series. So yeah, I don't know if they can still talk about being disrespected if they can't beat this team by more than 7 points.
Maybe I'm doing the French a disservice. Maybe it's years and years and years of scar tissue where we've seen the All Blacks just come
Just
back
turn
and
it up.
thump you. Yeah, so maybe. I mean, you're exciting me. You're getting me wondering and thinking maybe my perception is wrong. But I would love it. Like, let's be honest, we wanted this test series to be tight because
Yeah,
it was the other than the British and Irish Lions, this was the test series to look out for this year because everyone else is not really full strength and what. So then we expected that it was just going to be a massive walkover from the All Blacks, and then the French have gone and done that in test one. So maybe test two, maybe Galtier has changed their DNA. Maybe it's gone that far that he's changed their DNA that they don't capitulate away from home.
yeah. Look, they have a great record in these July tests. Like, I think only last year against Argentina, they got beaten by more than 7 points for the first time. And they usually say, like, the non Toulouse All Stars, basically. So yeah, I think they've done well in Australia, they've done well in Argentina. Like, New Zealand's obviously another level, but, there's I mean, they had a chance there last week to win a test. And, because of the players coming into the team, you know, it doesn't feel like it's the intense, like the level has dropped. So, who knows? But the, you are right, Sean. Like the All Blacks, especially if you face them twice or three times, it's very rare you'll get
Catch
away from
it.
that without at least one sort of like big sort of game that you lose by 20, 30, 40 points.
A humbling. It's called a humbling.
Yeah, so we'll see if that happens this weekend. So let's go very quickly through the other tests. I think the most interesting test outside of that, oh, oh, maybe let me let you choose your own adventure. Do you want sort of the possibly feisty Fiji Scotland game, which I think will be very competitive, or the Japan Wales game where Wales is staring at history?
I was actually looking at the Argentina England game, but
Oh, yes.
Fiji Scotland is the one for me. Um, Scotland, I thought at the hands of their new defensive coach, Byron McGuigan, honorary Saffers abroad, Milton High School lad. Off the back of that defensive set against the Maori All Blacks and how they played, I think they're gonna be in with a bit of a shout. Fiji are looking great. They get to play another game now, which is awesome. Fiji have moved up a level. They're in a space now where it's not just a Rugby World Cup Fiji you must worry about. It's almost an every test Fiji that something could happen. Don't get me wrong, there will be times where they fumble it, just like we've seen it with Italy. We've seen it with these sides that are there and build up, and then they have a couple bad games. That Fiji Scotland one is the one for me. The Japan Wales game is there purely for entertainment purposes. I'm just there going to enjoy it for what it is, and then just read all the chaos that comes out on social media and the news afterwards. But the Argentina England one is probably the more rugby one that you'd want to watch out of those three that we've mentioned for me. So it's quite nicely balanced. Like we've got the excitement of the Fiji Scotland. I've just got the entertainment value, beers with the boys with Japan Wales, and then settle in for the Argentina England.
Yeah. Look, Argentina England is, I mean, Argentina did the Argentina thing of just when you think, okay, this team has turned a corner, they're going to now walk into being like a top four, top five team. They're going to be impressive and then just absolutely crapping the bed against England. I mean, quite familiar that they're losing to, or part of the loss was a George Ford drop goal as well. Um, which probably means this weekend Argentina's going to hit England by like 20, 30 points. Like, but I think England's also in that same place where we were kind of mentioning that with Gaultier and the French team. Like, it feels like Borthwick has like just taken away that ability of them to lose embarrassingly. Like it does seem like the team that lost just before the World Cup to Fiji just isn't really there anymore, and they haven't really had. I mean, even in their tour to New Zealand last year, they haven't had games where they've lost by 10, 15 points or just been thrashed like they did like even in 2022 when they had those big losses against the French and against Fiji, and they had some big loss against Ireland as well. Like I can't see this England team, even if it's still somewhat or still under strength. I can't see this England team being beaten by a lot. But Los Pumas also like they have that, they're able to sort of bounce back from a loss, which is usually self-inflicted, and they're able to really put on a performance. It's just the problem is their consistency. And obviously, Shaun, we know how much of a fan you are of Henry Slade. And now having Atkinson and Northmore as your centre combination for England, that's a bit of a problem because you just lose that direction experience because now pretty much from between 10 and 15, it's only Ford and Stewart that is experienced. Everyone from 11 to 14 is just relatively green in Test rugby. And they'll be facing, Sinti, Moroni coming in. There's Carreras playing at 10, which hasn't really gone too well. Like, I think this is definitely going to be the more entertaining game in terms of just the rugby and just seeing how England goes and expecting that backlash from Argentina. I think that will definitely be there. But yeah, I think on the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, I think for the other, like, I mean, we've talked about Wales and how bad they've been, but just for Japan, like, I think last week was I hope it's a game that they can build on because they've also been pretty much on a losing streak. They haven't really been able to find momentum with Eddie Jones. Like, will that second half be able to just start them on their road to becoming, maybe to repeat a 2015 type of like World Cup run in a few years? Like, and that's what kind of Eddie Jones is banking on is sort of starting afresh, starting with a new team and sort of rebuilding it up. But geez, I mean, Shaun, there's no way Wales lose this game, right?
I don't know. We can go back to this conversation we had last week, and we were like, "There's no ways." I was reading articles where the conversation wasn't about being 18-0 on loss to win ratio. It was more about like how much they would break their duck by, and then yeah, and then here we are. So the only thing that Wales will have in their favor is I feel that Eddie Jones can prepare a team for that one game, but a week between is not long enough to prepare for another game, if you understand
Mm.
what I'm saying. Like, is that done? Like, is that the game? Was that their game plan? Is that it? Like, are we gonna go out and just have a jaw now? Um, but Wales, like, yeah. The thing is they're not going to know where their next win will come from, if it'll ever happen in the history. Like, are they just going to shut down rugby in Wales altogether? Just end rugby in Wales with 18 losses in a row, and that's why we ended it, and no more rugby. Go across the border if you want to play. It must be the hardest week. Imagine Imagine watching the video, imagine training, imagine preparing, like you're training with that cloud the whole time. Like there's no like cool, we've got this. This is where we made a mistake. Let's pick it up here. I think
Yeah,
it's the hardest conversation. Wales have to win, surely. Surely.
surely. Goodness, it really has to happen. But yeah, I think that's a lot to look forward to. I mean, yeah, like you said, the Scotland games are very interesting. I think it seems like it's evenly matched. Like, and Scotland, I mean, this is a rare opportunity for them to win, like in the Southern Hemisphere as well. I like the Scotland backline. Like, you have Toby, you have Jordan and Redpath in a midfield, you have Stain and Darcy Graham at wing with Carl Rowe at fullback. You have Cook's favorite player, Fergus Burke at 10 as well. Like,
How did
there's
he, how did he, was this always the plan that he was going to
yes,
play for Scott? Was it? Oh,
yes.
so he went, so he went to Saracens and then qualified for Scotland.
I think he has a Scottish grandparent, if I'm not
So he
mistaken.
always, so he was always available for them.
Yes.
All right. There, I saw his name on the team sheet last week, and I'm like, Whoa, what have I missed here? Like, am I thinking of the wrong person? That's what I thought because I didn't see this coming. I thought, yeah, I just assumed it would have been England that the qualification would have happened by, but yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
No, yeah. I mean, I think that was always the plan. And that was his motivation for leaving the Crusaders, being like, there's a good chance I can make the Scottish team. I mean, it's a pretty decent depth chart now for Scotland at 10 because it's Finn Russell, it's Tom Jordan, it's Adam Hastings, and it's Fergus Burke. Like those are not bad options there at 10. So they're in a pretty good spot there. Sean, I'm
Can't
so
wait. Can't wait for Fergus Burke to push Finn Russell away while Finn Russell and Fergus Burke are in the same squad next year, and then we must have Cooks on.
I think Cooks will stop watching rugby if that happens. But the one clash I'm looking forward to probably the most this weekend is Tusova versus Tom Jordan. Like we know how much Tom Jordan thinks he's, I don't know, like Sion Tupelotu's brother, like twice removed and runs hard. And he's gonna have to do it against Tusova, is probably the hottest like center in rugby at the moment. So I think that clash when it happens in the game like will like detonate across the world. Like that will be really crazy.
Absolutely, and this is where I love egos because two servers going, nah, bud, there's no ways. Good luck that you think this, but let me show you. So there's gonna be intent from both as well. It's not like two servers gonna try and run around him. Two servers just gonna just change their shoulders straight for you, and then it's gonna.
Yeah, that'll be worth it alone. The other game, at least sort of involving tier one nations, is Portugal Ireland. I think yeah, another raft of debutants for Ireland. Portugal might feel disrespected not facing Sam Prendergast and getting Kieran Prendergast, the one that can tackle. They'll be like, you know, why are you disrespecting us by playing Jack Crowley? But I mean, good opportunities for the likes of Hugh Govan. I think he's making his debut. Pretty much coming on for Jamie Osborne, who's obviously been asked to come for the Lions. Um, yeah,
And
and
Shane Bolton sat
yes,
us
at grade
abroad,
11.
making his test debut.
Yeah, so I mean, it's again Ireland. Yeah, like they're not too far off from like that depth conversation as well because essentially they have a whole first team that's in Australia right now, and the second team you're like this is decent. Like you know. Most of the positions, you're like, you can do something with these players. I know Tommy O'Brien was fantastic at wing last week. I think the the loose forwards are quite great as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot there. We'll have to see. I think the Portugal team is not named yet, so we'll have to see how strong they are. But yeah, if it is, the team that was playing like even last year in the game they played against South African Bloemfontein, this will actually be a really entertaining game.
Yeah, good. There's a lot of good rugby on if you look at it at face value.
Yeah. Then I think the last two games very quickly. The Cheetahs are facing Georgia on Friday, so it's probably Georgia's like warm up match before they test against the Springboks next week. It's a pretty as strong as could be Cheetahs team, like pretty much the team that will face um, everyone in the Currie Cup. I think Georgia's pretty much used this game as a rotational game, so there's a lot of the first choice players that are you know um, that are sort of on the bench. But you still have the likes of Gigash really coming off the bench and Lobzianze like coming off and Matkava. So I think this is more about Georgia just finding out about that second level of players and how they go than it being like a full warm up. And I think the Cheetahs will do well. So that's something for Friday night. And then finally, South African women are playing against Canada this week. I mean, I think, on the balance of things, losing 50-20 to Canada, I think is a pretty good result. Um, Canada's sort of leveled up though, because they have Sophie Deguti that has come back into their team. And I mean, she's, in that short list of best players in the world. So I think that'll definitely be a test for the women's box team. But I think the women's box will be like, the maul was great, the scrum was great. There's some great individual like players there like that can create opportunities, but kind of has the structure that they're able to sort of build to the game. I think for Sways, it's that thing of like, how do we make? I mean, it's kind of like you've got the strong scrum. It's just now you don't have everything else that can now capitalize on that.
Yeah, and obviously it's a World Cup year, and we're
Yeah,
getting close to that time. Um, the preparation that we have had for this World Cup and the vibe around it has been the best ever. And the ladies are pretty pumped. Like they're pumped, they're motivated, they've got very, very clear goals set out. So yeah, I'm excited. And playing Canada is huge pre-World Cup. It's massive for us because Canada are up there. So they've got
yeah.
quality side.
Yeah, I mean, if you're at least able to stay in the game against a team like Canada, that should set you up because they're the second best team in the world. So that should set you up against anyone else. Okay, let's end it there. Lots of rugby to look forward to. Hopefully, we've touched on as much as possible. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening to the Rugby's podcast. Please follow us on Spotify or on YouTube to watch and or to listen to this podcast. And this is a great sort of primer for the games this weekend. Please follow us on our social media platforms to get any updates on what's happening in the rugby world. Any thoughts that Shaun has on Rico Yanni playing 14, you'll probably find them there as well. And yeah, there's a lot of rugby to look forward to. We'll be back on Monday or early next week to wrap that up. And yeah, there's a lot that we can look forward to and seeing how these teams go. So thank you so much. We'll come again next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.